The man who runs the world's largest investment bond fund, PIMCO's Bill Gross, the co-founder and co-CIO of PIMCO, joins us today from their company headquarters in Newport Beach, California. Welcome back, Mr. Gross.
Thank you, William. Nice to be here.
Nice to see you again. It's been a while. You're not impressed by this bill. Why?
Well, I'm impressed by the slower economic growth, which I think is behind most of this. It's behind the decline in stocks for 8 straight days. It's behind the tremendous decline in yields. I mean, the consumer in the United States basically has disappeared. There are no jobs in terms of growth. There are no wages in terms of increase, and therefore no spending power, and that promotes a first half GDP number of less than 1% and perhaps a second half GDP number of 2% or so. This is a classic delevering cycle in which households are under pressure, and based on consumption, which is 70% of our economy, the growth rate of that economy is basically going to be stultified for perhaps the next several years.
Now you downgraded your growth rate, projected growth rate for the U.S. Is that in part due to the bill that was just passed by Congress? I mean, you're not impressed by the amount of cost cutting that they're doing there, or not?
No, we're not impressed at all. To me, that's a Macbeth full of sound and fury, signifying nothing type of event. I mean, there's been $1 trillion of cuts, but they're basically back-end loaded. Nothing takes place in 2012. It all begins in 2013. And actually, slower economic growth, if it comes, as we suggest, probably will increase the deficit more than these packages will decrease it. And so we're still looking for 9 to 10% deficits to GDP, and we await the answer from Standard & Poor's based upon those numbers.
But if you tried to cut as much as people would want to bring the deficit down, wouldn't you do even more harm to the growth rate of the economy? I mean, when you think about it, just from a purely economic standpoint, isn't this the wrong time to be doing any cutting in government spending?
Well, we agree, Bill, and sorry, Tea Party, but, you don't promote economic growth necessarily in the short term by reducing deficits. We're simply suggesting that, over the next 12 to 24 months, that it's delevering, that it's the weak job growth that is the essence of the problem, and that Obama and company should have been focused on jobs as opposed to this debt package, which took up a tremendous amount of time unnecessarily.
Now, the question is, can the U.S. maintain its AAA credit rating? Fitch is already out saying that they will maintain it for now, at least, and we'll talk to their head of the global sovereign debt next hour about that. What about your view of it and what you think S&P will do with the credit rating?
Well, a ratings downgrade is a close call, Bill. I mean, S&P has drawn a line in the sand at $4 trillion of deficit reduction or close to that, and a current estimate of 2.5 falls far short of that. On the other hand, I suspect S&P is under enormous pressure to maintain the AAA negative watch that they have. And, we've recently seen congressional hearings last week, and in Euroland there's a threat to start their own agency. I mean, basically countries are fighting back. And so these are just recent examples of policy pressure for S&P to maintain the AAA. So it's a close call in terms of whether or not they have the spine to basically follow through with their $4 trillion number.